Hello, hello. I feel like because this is a live stream, I should have some kind of hello, big welcome. But then I'm also conscious that you've probably been on very quiet time and there's been no sound, and I've just woken you up. So welcome to the live stream today. Um, welcome, welcome. Just have a look who we've got. We'll be starting realistically in about a minute or two. Welcome, Martin. Welcome, Neil, Tonya, Sydney. Welcome back, and Graham. Very warm welcome. We're live on YouTube as well. Sorry, Sydney, I know you're not a fan of YouTube, but we are live on YouTube just for the benefit of getting us out to a wider audience as well. Also, on YouTube, there is a recording. Now that recording doesn't cover yourselves in chat. Doesn't cover your names, which is good, and I've kept everybody mute. But during the course of today, and I'll come on to what today is, feel free if you'd like to ask a question. I can pull you off mute as long as you're happy to be on either camera or a microphone. That will be on the YouTube channel. Then you're absolutely free. So yeah, welcome, welcome, Nicholas, and no problem, Sydney. For not being there yesterday. That was probably our bad. We had for those of you who don't know, we had a learning management solution workshop yesterday that Connor DC ran, one of our coaches. For those of you that have not met me before, my name's John Mandeville. I'm one of the academy coaches. So Connor yesterday ran the learning management solution system workshop. It was intended originally to be, wow, 4 to 5 hours worth of build along. When we did all the trials, it ended up we knew we needed about 10 hours. So Connor absolutely smashed it yesterday. He had some issues with Power Apps being updated, but yeah, so it was in 2 parts, and so you can catch those 2 parts if you choose to. If you want to build a learning management solution in Power Apps, you absolutely can. They are now on, well, they will very soon both be on demand. Connor's just finishing up the video edit for the second part, and that'll be posted. But if you've got any sort of interest in that area, either pop me a message in chat or pop a message to Connor and myself, and we'll show you around how to get to those particular areas. But hey, look, what are we here for today? We're here for a live stream. If this is your first, could I just find out, is this their first live stream with one of the academy coaches? Just pop a yes in chat. So Neil, that's first for you. Cool. Well, you're either in for a treat or a disaster. It depends on your viewpoint. I'll explain what we do in live streams because they are different. They're deliberately different, actually. But a very warm welcome if this is your first. So the idea of the live stream is we're really conscious that in the academy, that I think you can see on my screen, yeah, you can hopefully all see and appreciate this area that we've built, our academy as we call it. We try to cater to lots of different learning styles. So we're not kind of thinking we're a Udemy or a Code Academy where we just churn out courses. That isn't what we try to be about at the academy. What we try to do is we try to encourage a sense of, number one, community. So this is where people with Microsoft 365 passions come together to chat, to find out what each other's up to find out how to solve problems. And so we've created a whole bunch of community spaces. You may notice them down the left-hand side. There's the forum, there's the social, there's the wall of fame to get a little bit of kind of social kudos for things that you do, but a place to hang out. And so when we're doing some of our live events, we like to cater to that. And this is very much today, the live streams that you'll see are very much around that community hangout feel. It's a place to come along, have chat, interact with me, ask me questions about the academy, things that are on your mind. Equally, I'll share stuff with you that we might have been doing in the last week that you might have not seen, because we're really conscious the academy is like a white screen in front of us. And as a person that's in the academy, you may not be aware of some of the things that we work in day out to bring to you. So I want to kind of highlight a few things today. So that's one purpose of the live stream, is you can tell me what you need, what you're after. If you need any sort of help and support in particular areas, we can have chat. I will bring to you the latest updates. Equally, what I'm going to try and do, what we'll do today, is we always come, Connor and myself, with like a theme in mind. And today's theme that I'm not going to do a lot of build, but I am going to do some probably talking around. We'll explore some avenues. Is going to be using the Microsoft services, but in a context that is not your average everyday. I've got lots of money to chuck at this. Let's just buy the latest and greatest. It's an educational setting, and I want to explore a little bit. It's for my own benefit, really. My wife is a early years teacher, and she does a lot of work with it's called special educational needs in the UK, but equally she does a lot of work with reception age and early years children. And there's the UK framework for education is a lot about assessment, a lot about paperwork. You'll hear this from teachers in the UK a lot. And I empathise with her a lot and her colleagues because they don't just work during the day. They come home and I constantly see my wife working on the laptop, filling in forms, filling in assessments. And we were having a chat on a walk, and she was asking me, is there anything you could do in the Power Platform or in Microsoft 365 in general that can help? But it is within a set of fairly restrictive constraints because, as we all know, education's not full of money. So I'm going to explore that topic a bit. I won't go into that too much, but I will explore that. They are informal. Like, you will have periods where I am just looking at screens and I'm clicking around. But equally, if you've got thoughts and you want to say, John, I would go about it in this way, share them with me. I love to hear what the community thought process is like. It's a shared space. That's what these live streams are about, really, even though all you get to do is listen to me talking. So, hey, let's kick off. That's what is a live stream. I'm just really interested, actually, for those of you who've joined me today, and it's wonderful that you have. Thank you very much. What's brought you here today? Is it the fact that, well, I'll stop the question there. What's brought you here today? And yes, Sydney, when I'm showing stuff, what I'll do is I will do this. I will zoom in and out, but I'm not going to show stuff just yet. But I will do. Just general interest. Cool, cool. Thank you, Graham. So has anybody come specifically because of the use case? I can see typing. I like typing. If you've ever watched a live stream of game, we got inspiration, Connor and myself, from the sort of gaming community. Connor's very big into his online games, and a lot of the live streamers just go live and they just play games all day. But and the people who watch it get a lot out of it because they get to learn the sort of the processes and some of the tips and tricks. That's really all this is. There's a lot of quiet space, but it's quite interesting. Yeah. So that's absolutely right. Education does have different licensing parameters and whatnot. So yeah, that's something I'm going to keep in my mind a little bit, and we might explore the actual differences between educational licenses versus your what I'm going to say standard commercial licenses. Awesome. So we have Neil as well, interested in expanding the use of Office 365. So yeah, this would be a good use case that I'm going to explore for that, because what we find is that you have the core of the services that you tend to use, whether you're looking for the non-premium services or the premium services. You'll have the core, you'll have the Power App, you'll have maybe a list, maybe a bit of Dataverse variants on that. You'll maybe have Power Automate, and you'll build things, but very much that core, that spine, can be reused. Probably what I'm thinking in my head today, I've probably reused the thought process half a dozen times, because largely it's and actually the thought process aligns to what Connor did yesterday in his learning management workshop, where it's about an assessment of topics, which could be an assessment or an inspection of a thing. So you could multi-purpose this for inspection apps. It's about recording of data relating to an individual or an item, if you were talking in object terms. And so the use case is probably reusable, and these kind of things that we explore can be quite useful because they might trigger your thought processes in one particular direction, Neil, to help expand your use. So just to answer your question, Graham, so I'm not going to specifically at this stage, I don't have any plan. the plan for live streams is we don't have a plan. I have a thought process that I'm probably going to go through, and when I get to thinking about what services I may or may not use, we'll go on a journey and we'll have a little look at what the licensing looks like. Us as a business, we always try to go for probably, let's say, the minimum spec of licenses that we need to perform the job. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, we actually have an E3 license on our tenant, but in reality, most of what I tend to do, you can do with a business basic license, because I'll divert a little bit actually, because it's a really good question. There was a workshop that Matt Weston did a little while ago for us, and he was talking about, don't design your systems by your licenses. So what do I mean by that? Don't think what license do I need to make this solution? What he was saying was, think about the needs of your people and the solutions that you're building, and then only purchase the bits of the license you need, or the licenses you need to perform that function. And the very specific example he gave, which really sort of resonated with me, was there's at the very entry level, the business basics type licenses. You can have a license which gives you access to the Power Platform functions, so the services, so Power Automate, Power Apps, SharePoint, all that great stuff. It doesn't give you the ability to download Microsoft Office products, but we didn't need that. So you can cut your license to your needs. Now, yes, there is that shift into educational licensing, and I think as a licensing partner, which we're not, they will give you very strong advice on what licensing to use for the educational context, because there will be certain bits you get that are better than what we get as a commercial entity, and vice versa, certain restrictive elements that you won't get. But we'll explore that. I'll come on to that in a little while. I shall make a note of that onto my list. Okay. So before I do go into it a little bit, there are a couple of things I'd love, I mean, because we have people on the call today, I'd love to, first of all, share those with you. And secondly, just take your opinions a little bit. Who's just give me an indication in chat, who's very new to the academy? I know you are, Neil. Who's been here sort of, I don't know, maybe 2-3 weeks or so, or less? Just give me a yes or a thumbs up, just so I can get a feel if you've been here a while or not. Okay, cool. So most of you have probably been around a little while, so this will be quite interesting, I hope. So we have for a long time tried to create the academy as a place where you can ultimately come and access any content you've ever purchased from us as a business. And it's taken us a long time to get there. For probably the long time sufferers like Sydney, you've been through a number of iterations with us. We've had an events location where you got all of your global conference sessions from, but this is a collection. Okay, David, awesome. You'll see on you first time. So this might be quite useful, I hope. But also for those long-term members, the Academy is a kind of a collection of everything we've done in the past, and we want it to be our go-to location for you to come and get anything you've either purchased or you're interested in with us for the future. Now, that comes with a little bit of a problem, because there will be people here, probably like yourself, Sydney, who have purchased in the past and have taken the option with us to subscribe. So what I mean by that is we're trying to make it easier for you to access what you want when you want it, without having to go through the fuss of, have I got that? Have I got access to that? How much is that going to cost me? We're trying to move very much towards a model where, and it's not for everyone, we completely understand that, where our content is accessed via a single payment, a single subscription. But we know there are people here who we've invited to come and join us for free events, and we want you to be able to take advantage of what the community aspects of the Academy offers. Equally, we want to support people who do want that paid for membership. So I just want to highlight that what you might start seeing very soon, certainly if you've recently joined, is this concept of the community plan versus the platinum plan. All that means is the community plan will allow you access to anything you've ever purchased from us in this one space, plus all these kind of community spaces down here, plus any courses that we've ever released that we categorize as being valuable to the community to help people get to grips with the Power Platform. So what do I mean by that? You won't see all of these spaces down here on the left. Let's just zoom up. This is because I'm an administrator for this site. Most people should see all of this good stuff. When you have purchased something, it sits under my content. If you have challenges, if you have workshops, if you have solutions days, they will sit under that left-hand side. If that's what you see, and that's all you see, you're what we call a community plan member. So just to help you understand that context, it means you've got access to your stuff. You've also got access to the community elements. You will also probably see these things down here, the Foundations course. It's great if you're new to Microsoft 365 services. Blow my own trumpet here. I did this one ages ago, but it's a really handy entry point to the services. And the Teams admin course, if you've got access to that, is awesome. Okay, so that's you, and you can to a degree still get these things down the left hand side individually, but we're really conscious that it's quite complex for lots of people and we don't want to keep bombarding you with sales. So this is everywhere now. You can get links to it in all sorts of different places, but the Platinum membership just unlocks everything. And we're also trying to develop that into something that is easier to navigate. So just to give you that heads up, if you're new to us, you may want to explore the Platinum Plan membership if your interest is in learning and you like our style. You like the idea you can get community, and you like the idea that anything we release going forwards, you're going to get access to. Hope that makes sense. Don't know if there's any questions. Let me just check the questions of the connections. So I'm not entirely sure I understand your question, Graham. That's my case. It's new for the Credly badges, though. Don't know if old courses could qualify me. Will there be a review? Oh, thank you. Graham can recommend Platinum Plan. Yeah, feel free to repost that question, Graham, just so I fully understand it and I can definitely answer you. And apologies, some people having a few issues with the screen clarity. Okay, so I'll come back to that. I'll come back to the questions in a moment. So yeah, just to share with you, you will see that idea of community membership. If you are unclear and you just want to double check where you think you're up to, well, just click on home and there's a little bit of guidance there. I think we put the guidance in the start here somewhere. Lots and lots of directive posts in there. But if you've got any questions about like getting around the academy, what am I missing? What have I not got access to? I've heard about this, etc. Just pop me a note, pop me on the message in the DM up here, or pop Connor a message, or email hello@collab365.com, because as you see, there's real human beings behind this. A few of us, not too many of us, but a few of us, and we're always happy to help. And we are trying to make this a much simpler space to be. But our goal is to give you a simpler way to purchase, and that'll just be through a subscription going forwards. So that's that. That's the academy. That's what you've given me some information on sort of what brought you here, some changes. One thing I do want to ask, we are looking at how people feel about the community aspects of what we offer. Now, I see this day in, day out. We're getting some great engagement in the 365 forum, which is fantastic. I'm loving the fact that people are answering each other's questions, but we're really conscious, like we've got nearly 8,500 members now. If we were to, you won't see this, but if we were to allow the member space to be visible to you all, would that be of any value, do you think? I'd love through the course of this, if you have a little thought about that. Do you care? Do you not care? Could you see a value for you knowing who the membership is? And pop a thought in chat. If you can't see a reason why you would want that, that's great. That's feedback for us. But we're looking into that is to make your ability to see other members a little bit more transparent. And I know Mark, one of our team, is very mindful of whether we are creating enough of a sense of community to allow you to chat with each other and get each other's help in different things. But yeah, share your thoughts. Right, so back to the questions. If we took a course of old before the academy and got credly badges. Okay, so here's the thing. So it very much depends. And Graham, what I'll do is I will make a note to get in touch with you after this. Let me make a note of yourself. I'm going to have to find out your email address, aren't I? In the old world, depends what time frame you're talking, we tended to have conferences, we tended to have sessions. They wouldn't always have been courses as such, so there wouldn't have been what we call a quiz at the end of them. We've done that now because we believe that hands-on, build it, learn it, use it, enhance it, check yourself, check your knowledge is the way forwards in a lot of cases for learning. So whenever you do something within the academy that is a challenge, excuse me, or is a course in terms of its lessons that you go through, and there's a quiz or an exam at the end, you will get those credly badges if they're associated. If it's something in the past that was, you attended a global conference, we don't tend to. There may be some cases where we had credly badges, but I'll have a chat with you, and we can figure out what you may be missing or you may have done in the past, and I can tell you much more easily there. Hope that helps. Yes, 8,000 is a lot to curate, but you know what? I absolutely love the fact that the membership is growing. I think we're putting on hundreds a week, which is really good. It's giving you more value in the community. It's giving Connor and myself and Mark and Fraser more people to talk to and to help out, which is great. So that kind of in a roundabout way brings me to today. So what is today? I know that's 20 minutes of me blurbing, but that's live stream life. I go off on tangents. So what is today? So today is I'm going to explore this idea of I've got in my head Power App, but you know what? I'm going to take that out of my head. I would like to look at a use case, and you know what? I think I can show you this use case a little bit if I put this over here. A use case where and it is a very simplified use case because it's for 3 and 4 year olds, but the principles might stand true. So here's a common user journey or a common user interaction. So let me just pull up this. Is this the right one? It is. So what happens in the classroom is, if anybody's familiar with phonics or have young children, you might recognize this. There are flashcards, and those flashcards get presented to children. And the idea is, through the UK kind of educational system, is through intervals, these flashcards get presented to children, and the children will produce a sound. The idea is that at that age they should be or we'd like them to say things like s or a or t or p. So it's phonetics. I think it's called phonics. It's the sound of the letter, and it's a test that we perform in UK education to just really understand how that visual and language centre is forming. Now, like I said at the start, you could replace this for anything. This might be an artifact, an image, or something, or this could be a machine in a business. So it's not a flashcard. It's a thing you go and inspect. But the idea is these get flashed to children, and I think this is actually, you're looking at the thing that sometimes gets flashed to the children. They cut them out, they have them in their hands, and the teachers will sit with the child and they'll go, what do you see here? And the next step of the process is, let me just open this. This is where the fun stuff comes in. Let me make this bigger. Now, I have to be a little bit careful. This is anonymized, but this is something that schools in the UK are using for real. So there's no sensitive data in here at all. But just have a look at this. So a teacher will go through and they will have up to 30 children in a class, and for each of those cards, there will be an assessment, and there will be a date that assessment is taken. There will be multiple assessments through the year. So you can start to see my thought process when I was looking at this, thinking, well, okay, that's great. There's probably reusable elements here, but the concept that, well, the thing that the teachers have to do is they have to bear in mind they've got a wriggling 3 or 4 or 5-year-old child. They have to open up a spreadsheet. They have to find the child's name. They have to put information into a spreadsheet, and that gets saved locally. And then what they have to do with this spreadsheet is, and this has worked for years. Don't get me wrong, this is a process that works for people. But I thought, well, there might be a way to help this. They have that spreadsheet, and then that spreadsheet needs to be shared with certain people. So that's just generally it's on a cloud. So it's on a cloud storage location, so like OneDrive, the school's OneDrive. But they then have to share that with specific people. And it just got me thinking when my wife said, is there anything you can do with Power Apps? I thought, hang on a minute, visual cues, yes, no answers, data feels like it should be possible. Oh, thank you, Linda. My screen seems to be frozen. Bear with me. It's frozen in a terrible pose as well. Just let me turn that on and off again. I assume you can still hear me. Right. Luckily, that's 2 minutes ago. So, Linda, you may have seen some of that little demo. Let me just see if I can. I'm going to shut down my virtual camera, and I'm going to start it up again. Everything else is good. I just love that picture it's frozen on. Why did you choose to freeze on that? Let's exit that. It's because Connor joined. My camera froze. I'm blaming you, Connor. Hope you don't mind. Yeah, my camera software is just frozen. That's wonderful. So bear with me. You are a walking technical nightmare. Yes. Connor had issues, for your benefit, yesterday on the live stream because of various different dataverse synchronization issues. Right, there we go. Looks like I'm going to be back now. Let's just start my virtual camera. There we are. I think I'm back. A little bit juddery. There I am. And there's my flashcards. They're back. So let's just quickly whip through that again. So we've got flashcards on the screen. They get cut out, shown to children. They are just, I'm going to call these, actually, I'm going to use the terms that we used yesterday. These are like lessons. These are items that we want to record data against. And then what we have, and I'll try and flip this across, is we have a spreadsheet which captures all that data. So, I mean, do you need a teacher to demo the sound? Well, so that's a really good question. Yeah, there's all sorts of things we could do with this, Graham. What tends to happen is the teachers will demonstrate it through the lesson, and then these assessments take place very much in a sit down and show a flashcard and record the results. So one thing I'm just going to share with you now is they actually get to use some kind of software sometimes, the teachers, because one of the big problems that we've got is thinking about this. Any improvements we make, number one, has to take manual effort away. Number two, can't cost schools anymore because budget is a huge constraint. So all the while I'm thinking kind of in my terms, non-functional requirements here. Well, they're sort of they're constraints, if you like, for the solution that I'm thinking. But the teachers can't. What they have is, let's just pop this up. This looks pretty, doesn't it? They have apps they can use. They're browser-based apps. And here's an example. So that will pop up. That will be the sound that the child has to make. And then it's yes, they got it right, or no, that was the incorrect sound, and that data gets logged. So they don't demo them as such. They can do if there's a visual impairment, for example. There might be a different way that would do this, but at the very, very core of this idea, and where I'm going to go with it, is the idea that it is just a visual cue. It is a yes, no answer, and it is a record of the result against that particular individual. So make of that what you will. I mean, it could be, like I say, any use case that you currently perform where you look at a thing, you record some data, and that data goes into a spreadsheet. The idea is that you could port this same solution in for that. And I keep saying thing because I'm very much thinking of an inspections app for industrial products, or even items on a shelf or a stock take. So that's really interesting, actually, Sydney. Yeah, there's a huge variance in the way that teaching takes place. I won't digress into that one, but at the moment there is, and that's where time just gets eaten, because my wife will come home and she'll sit and she will do an assessment, and at the evening she will digest that data and she'll have to write reports based upon that data. Sad truth, but it is the truth. Okay, so let's just quickly scan. Yeah, so Graham, your brain is thinking very much along the way that my thought process originally went, and may stay, and we can explore this in a minute. Which was a list with a workflow. I'm going to explore that in a bit. So I'm just going to drop into the chat. So there's a few people. Connor, you're saying the audio is a little off. Yeah, I'm gonna plow on. We have had a few issues with bandwidth. I have a I'm just gonna do this live speed test. I should have a pretty solid bandwidth. There is no restriction on this. Let's just have a look. Yeah, so there shouldn't be any issue with my bandwidth. I think Teams has been a little bit off recently, Connor, just for anybody else's benefit. I don't know what your visual is like at your for you all generally, but Connor's struggling with reading the screen. Interested, if you do struggle, I'll slow down a little bit. Right, where do we go? Linda, you might be a good test because you spot it was frozen. Okay, good. I'll plow on. Apologies if we have some issues. Like I say, this is by default recorded on YouTube, so I will pop the link in for that later. And it may be that that's better outside of Teams, but I am streaming over to YouTube. Okay, so where did we get to? So you've seen the basic parameters of what I want to do, and I kind of want to take you through my thought process. If I was doing this for real, there would be a lot of, not a lot, but there would be time I'd spend in the I'd interview, I'd talk, I'd communicate with the people who would like me to create this. So that's number one thing I always start with, is that kind of conversation, that direct contact. That's just me, and I'm going to talk about this in a little while, is about different approaches to delivery. But I would probably be thinking about setting up some exploratory workshops with the end users. That will be my first port of call for this. Like I say, today's live stream isn't really going to be about too much build, although I'm going to dip into a few different areas. I just wanted to talk it through with you all, talk through my thought process. But the goal that I think I've set myself now is that I'm going to develop this after today in pieces. It'll take longer than it ordinarily would, but I'm going to do bits during these live streams, I think, or at different points. I'll go and record a bit and I'll share it with you, but I'll record my thought process. But so, okay, I'm rambling a little bit, but what I'm going to avoid doing now is going into solutions mode. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I want to explore some thought processes and some ways to set myself up as if I was doing this for real. So a very classical solution would be to listen to what I've just said, and we'll dive into a Power App, and we'll dive into a list as I first thought as well, or into the Dataverse and start to build something. But I want to sort of step back a little bit and engage the analyst brain part of me and just explore a few things that I've discovered over the years that might be useful to you in that process. Some of them are Microsoft, some of them are not actually. But Connor's used this term actually. You use the term you're an agile developer a little bit, your Power Apps, agile Power Platform developer, I think you used. Yes, so bingo, brainstorm, make a process map with the user needs, Graham. That's exactly where my brain went. Is I have an approach to delivery. I've done both over the years, over like 25 years. I've done approaches where I'm going to say this advisedly, we pretended we knew everything we needed to know up front. But we pretended we could forecast the amount of time, energy, and cost that was going to take us to deliver up front. And we produced business cases to justify the time we were about to spend delivering the whole thing. I found, this is a personal perspective, and I have no inclination to disrespect what I'm going to call the waterfall approach. It's an approach to delivery. I found that for me as a human being, an agile approach works better. I just want to explore that a little bit. What I mean by that is that I found it became very, very hard in a lot of situations to really be as accurate as you wanted to be up front, especially when you don't take into account the experience of those you're working for or those you are working with to supply the solution. So in this particular use case, the first thing that popped into my head is, it's great. I have IT experience. I've worked in the industry for like 25, maybe a bit longer years. I know the terms, I know the ideas. I've come across lots of different things. I've got a lot of different things wrong, but the people I'm talking to, they know 4-year-old kids. I don't know 4-year-old kids. So there's going to be like a language barrier. So my brain has changed its perspective, I guess. And I very much now think about if the people I'm talking to and delivering for don't know enough to be absolutely 100% confident up front what they want, maybe I'm going to adopt a more agile stance, a more agile mindset, where what I'm going to do is, rather than being very fixed in my requirements up front, rather than being very rigid in the processes we'll go through, the phases we'll go through, forecasting all your cost and your time up front, that's great if we all know our business and the thing that we're doing is quite fixed. For me, if it's likely to be more of a fluid process where I have to empathize with the end user, the person, or if they're not 100% sure but would like to try some things, or if we need to experiment to see what works. And that's probably a great one for this, because what I think works for a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old possibly won't work for a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old. So the sooner I can place that in front of the teacher with that child, and they can give me the feedback about what's working and what isn't, the sooner I can do that, the less money that gets spent, the more risk averse the school is being, because they can dip their toe in the water, versus going up front, I need to tell you everything, and therefore they've committed everything. Just in my mind, that's where I first start. So I start with an agile mindset, which is to say, I'm going to explore this, and I'm going to start, as Graham correctly said, in the idea of brainstorming this with people. So to that end, it was interesting actually. I was doing a bit of research, because one of the tools that I've used in the past is, there are solutions out there that do this. So I'm going to just go into that area a little bit. And in going into that, what I did find is a tool that you might find useful. And I'm just going to do a quick versus to the Microsoft version of it. So I just did, this was literally about an hour ago. I did a quick Google on in-class assessment apps. And I came across this actually. So digital tools and apps to support users. So I suppose the first thing I would say is agile doesn't mean just like ploughing don't mean go into it with your eyes closed. There is a degree of forethought, the right amount of forethought, as much as you need to kind of manage your risk a little bit. But finding options for me to put in front of people to say, is it sort of this kind of thing that you want, or is it this kind of thing you want? I think just helps the process if there are existing tools out there. Perfect case in point. I'm digressing a little bit, but I used to work for the NHS and we delivered. It was, I mean, it's in use now. Millions of people use it. It's an app that you can book appointments and book repeat prescriptions through. But part of that app was how on earth do you verify someone's identity online when they're not there in person? And at the time, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, it was quite a new idea to verify people's identity just on a phone. But again, we found it a lot easier because the challenger banks had just done exactly that. So Revolut, Monzo, if you've ever heard of those, had just gone through a process of identity verification for banking, which we know is one of the most rigid identity checks that you can do. You have to do it for regulatory purposes. So we looked at it and we mimicked it, and it was a lot easier having something to look at and mimic. And so that's where my thought process went. What do we have out there that I could look at and mimic to see if it's sort of what we want? So I came to this. I mean, you know, I'm not promoting anybody else's blog at all. There's loads of stuff on here, but I think this is more geared towards you know, perhaps the older student rather than a 3 or 4 year old. But one really interesting thing that I'd already had in my head, because we've used this in the past, right down here, called Xmind. Has anybody ever used Xmind, or a tool similar to Brainstorm, to Mind Map? Let me just scroll up a little bit. Where's it gone? There it is, Xmind. Got to get the use of my scroll wheel. Mind Map was from the early 90s. Yeah, and I mean, look, this is not new concepts, is it? It's grab a pen and paper, it's scratch some things down. But let me just find Xmind. Quite like it actually, and I'm just going to showcase it, not because, you know, any reason other than I've not used it in a long time, and it's yeah, it's all right. It's quite nice. So let me just click new mind map. Kind of one of the things that we try and do at the academy as well is we're not absolutely 100% tied to Microsoft products, and sometimes you find products that support your need, and this is possibly one of them that I might explore. I've used a tool called Trello in the past, which is equally good. It's designed for a specific purpose. I mean, you can see here I've got the ideas I can put in here. Let's just do it with the right capitalization. Assessment. I can't spell. Learn spelling. Interesting. So I could start to map out the kind of thought processes I have here from a user journey perspective. I'm not going to do it because yet. But I quite like this. I mean, you know, you can drag things around, you can create relationships, which is all very nice. Trello, if you've ever looked at it, it's quite, not Trello. I don't mean Trello. I mean Miro. Yeah, sorry. Yes, Nicholas, Miro. Yeah, I think Miro is fab. Just for anybody who's not experienced it. I mean, you just saw there, point and click, all that good stuff. There are pro levels, but equally there are free levels. The same is true for Miro. Don't know if you've ever used Miro. We loved this when I last used it. Let's just make sure there's nothing sensitive on there before I show it to you. Let's just sign up to Miro. Sign up for free. Let's just do that. Yeah. Just go away. Ah, it's because I'm on the board. That's why. I'll show you something in a minute. Um, okay, go figure. I must have used this recently. Miro's another good one. Let's just go. What's in general? What's in general? I'm just checking myself because I'm on a live stream here. I don't want to expose something that I possibly shouldn't. Let's just do a mind map. Actually, let's just do a mind map. Okay. Yeah, so if I pop Miro over here, I've just created a free account. You can do certain numbers of things. You can The important thing is you can collaborate on items. And you can see here, you can do exactly the same things that I've just shown you in Xmind. Because of my history, I would probably, I don't know, I probably would bias Miro over Xmind purely because I know it works really, really well online. I know I can invite team members. I know I can share boards really, really easily. And I know it's super, super flexible, and it mimics the idea of whiteboard. So I could imagine a scenario where I'd sit with an end user, a person, a human being, whatever we choose to call each other. I can do post-it notes. I mean, I love this sort of thing. This helps us get to grips with mapping out what's in someone's brain quite quickly, and especially for more agile approaches, I feel the ability to move things around, to consolidate groups of things into that's important and this isn't. Miro just gives you that nice experience. So I wanted to kind of highlight those two tools that sit outside Microsoft in this thought process. I don't know which one I'm going to use yet. I possibly will go with Miro, but do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to flip over and I'm going to go to Whiteboard. When Whiteboard first came out in Microsoft, who uses Whiteboard, by the way? Or say something. Sydney's feverishly typing away. Let me get my whiteboard up. Okay, I'm going to say it. When Whiteboard first came out, it was really rudimentary. But I very much sort of thought like Teams was probably based on Slack. Is that controversial to say? Whiteboard was probably around the thought process of let's make Miro, but inside Microsoft 365. It's got a lot better. I mean, what you're seeing here now is not dissimilar to what I've just demonstrated in Miro. However, there are like features that I would want that I don't get in Whiteboard. I mean, I'm clicking around here and I'm wondering if I've got any templates. Oh, I have got templates. Okay. Right, now we're into something. And I'm wondering if I've got a brainstorming template. Yeah, that's that one. Have I got a mind map template? I mean, what's in there? Not that I would spend too much time thinking about what tooling I would use, but it is an interesting diversion to think about how many tools we've got out there. But in the cost saving exercise, could I do something? Actually, this is a valuable thought process. Could I do something in the mind mapping process, the mind mapping phase, that I could share with people who have a license for Microsoft? If I stuck with Whiteboard, it hits that goal of not adding cost, and I'm pretty confident with the Microsoft license that my wife and her school have got, we'd be able to share. I'd have to be in their tenant as a guest, but yeah, I don't think that would be insurmountable. Let's just have a quick look at what's recommended. Cause and effects. Not many. I could create them, but I like the idea in Miro. You've got the ability to really easily link things together by these little dots. Love that, and I can move stuff around, and I've got the persistence of the links. So like for features and functionality, I would probably use Miro, but for convenience and collaboration, there you go, I might use Whiteboard. Don't know. Right, where do I want to go next? Let's just choose. I'm gonna do it in Whiteboard just because we're here. Trying to find a decent retros. I remember those. Crikey, there's not many. There are some. Yeah, let's just go with brainstorm. Use this template. What does that give you? Okay. Yeah. Okay. It's all right. So we'll come back to that. So I might do a bit of a conversation. I might have a bit of a brainstorm about what I would be talking about at this stage. Would probably try and keep it in the language of a teacher. What do you use as a person? What's your user journey? And try and map that out. So I might actually just start to map a little bit of that out. I'm just looking at my notes now. It's going to refer back to the chat, see if there's any questions. Yeah, so interesting. So yeah, the note that you've made, Sydney, there about the way that you described this is probably the direction I'm going, and I'll talk about a technique in a moment. It's thinking about human beings. It's not thinking about the system must do this. It's thinking about what I would term user journeys. It's thinking about actors, the things that they would like to take place, and the results of those things. So there's a concept called BDD, business. I'm going to get this wrong now. God, it's been a while. These are dusty thought processes. Business-driven design, I think. It's test-driven design, so it's business-driven design. Use the language of the person, of the human being, to articulate what you want your solution to achieve. So what I mean by that is a common like phrasing that they will use, and it ties into what you said here. Who's having the issues? What's happening? Why? So the phrase that you use is as a. Then you say I want, so that. And that's the way that typically in the past when I'm doing these kind of exercises, I've structured the language. When we get into delivery, that's how I've structured it. So as a teacher, I want to be able to present a flashcard so that a child can interact, so that a button can be pressed, yes or no. You do it better than that, but you get the idea. You use that language to frame your pieces, if you like, frame your individual items that you think this thing needs to be delivering. But probably what I would start with is I'd just zoom up a little bit. I'd start with some user journeys. I'd start with an actor, and I'd start with a teacher and a child, and I'd be mapping out the process to go through. So there'd be a presentation of a flashcard, a yes no answer, and there would be the storage of some data. So we might do that in a minute. I'm just going to have a quick look at yeah, I mean, I don't think user journeys is as a marketing term specifically. I think it's more about a mindset. For me anyway, it's thinking about who am I delivering this software for? I'm not delivering it for a computer. I'm delivering it for a human being. So what do they want their journey to be? You do absolutely, yes, you do thinking around this. You do hear user journeys in terms of the marketing language. They want to see what that user journey looks like, but I'm thinking very much in a sort of use cases. What I want to support an end. I'm not going to say end user, a human being doing with this piece of software. I love all this interaction. I love questions, and I love what what are your thoughts right now. Feel free to share them about how you might approach this. Would your first step, what would it be? See, that's great. Some of the thought processes here about not just the software, but how the software is used. I think it's really important. The environment for delivery, yeah. I mentioned constraints. There might be a cost constraint. There may be constraints which you need to think about. So yeah, and I'll probably start to think in terms of you've got your functional requirements, the things the software must do. I'm sort of mixing terms a little bit, but your non-functional, your things that need to be in place for the app to be successful. So yeah, I think they're great examples where how the child will interact, how the teacher will interact. So one thing I talked to my wife about, I said, so what will you do? How will this happen? She said, well, what I'd like to do is I'll sit with a child at a table and we'll have a tablet or a browser. I got to stop getting behavior driven development. Yes, BDD. Thank you, David. Yes, that's like absolutely right. It's been a while. I got to stop getting distracted by your chat, Sydney. Get out the chocolate chips in a yellow bag. Okay, yes. No problem, Renero. Hope you have a good next session. Where was I? Yeah, so the solution is going to need to be presented in a very simple manner. And what do I mean by that? Again, it's drilling down into the brainstorm, and really this would be a conversation and we'd be writing some things down, and I might write some of these down in a minute because I want to start building this at some point. The screen, as I said before, should be really simple to read. Not this one. I pulled up the wrong one there. Where am I? This one. Simple to read. There must be the ability to see the question and provide the answers. The teacher provides the answer on the same screen. What we don't need in this case is different screens at the same time. So there's no like concurrency of accessing data. It's just one screen, one bit of input, one set of eyes. It could be anybody from a teacher to an assistant helping the child through this assessment. But yeah, they're really good thought processes there. Yeah. So yeah, I think I probably covered that one about the display screen and the remote to click the pass or fail. You could do that in conversation. Keeping it really simple would be better, because with a 3 or a 4-year-old, what the teacher will probably do is they will, and again, this is it's part and parcel of agile processes. You get very close with the person you're delivering this for and with. They're part of the journey. What my wife told me is we wouldn't want to, for example, give a laptop to a 3-year-old and leave them and stand back. What she'd want to be doing is be sat with them. And I'm sure many 3-year-olds can use laptops better than I can. She'd want that to be a sort of a curated exercise. So let's click on the, let me have a look at this and tell me what you hear. And then she'd click a button. So that's the interaction that she's looking for. Yeah, and in terms of as a minimum spec, it would be the teacher performing all the pass and fails. Now, you're absolutely right. A child could slap the screen and hey presto, you've got a yes or no. There would need to be some level of editing. So I think probably what I might do is, let me just have a look at my notes. I haven't budgeted too long for today. I really wanted today to cover the background, the concepts, but I'd like to probably write down some beginnings of user stories. For those of you who may be a little bit more less familiar with sort of agile mindset and agile approaches, I wouldn't spend an exhaustive amount of time upfront writing everything down. I'll be thinking about the core user needs, and what I'm going to try and do over the course of a few weeks is think about the absolute core user need here, the core solution that needs to be delivered for this to be a success in a short time. And what I mean by that is I'll create, again, I'm using terms here and apologies, I'll try and qualify them, a time box. So with a lot of the agile frameworks and approaches, I used to be a Scrum Master. We used to use Scrum as a framework. It's just a tool to assist delivery. It's not a follow by numbers process. It's a framework that you work with. And we used to think about either having a 1 week time box. So let's do some things to make a viable product, something that is potentially, and that's the key word, potentially usable inside that time box. So what is it that we need to make? It's a solution that can allow some person to present some visual and get some feedback on that screen. We might set a week for what's called an MVP, a minimum viable product. We might set 2 weeks. I would never set more than 4 weeks, because you sort of, as an approach, it works less well. The idea is you do everything that's needed in that time box. That means you go through thinking about what it is, maybe mapping out some visuals, maybe trying some proof of concepts, maybe getting some build done, definitely getting it checked, tested, whatever you want to call it. But then you have the working product to test and see, is that what I wanted, or what else do I want? The idea being you iterate quite quickly. The concept of fail fast kind of comes in. It is a different mindset. It takes a bit of getting used to, but that's what I'm going to try and follow and demonstrate to you all over the course of a few weeks. There was a reason I went into that, but I think I just need to qualify. That's very much my mindset, is that agile approach to delivery. And I'm going to kind of, it's going to be false, because I'm going to do this over a number of weeks and there's only me. But I'd probably try, for something like this, I'd probably be saying, look, let's just try and get something up and in front of you in, you know, in a really short space of time. So I would cut my cloth accordingly. I would be thinking about, okay, in 1 week, what would be the most sensible solution that I could present to you? And that's my time box. That's what I'd try and do. I'd write the user journey, the use cases for that solution, and we would see where we go. Now, there's a lot of caveats to put to all of that, but I won't go there yet. There is one thing I do want to cover today. That's the concept of, great, I know about this stuff. Before I start doing this, and which is, I think, subconsciously, that's why I've paused. Do I need to build this, or is there something else out there? And so I'm going to pause, and that's going to be the last portion I'll do today, is build versus buy. So I've got a broad appreciation through maybe a mind mapping session what somebody would like, because I think that's important to understand what it is that you're trying to achieve. Offline, I'm probably going to fill this in. I'll fill something in whiteboard. I'm going to choose whiteboard, even though I don't like it necessarily, just because I think that's got continuity with what I'm trying to achieve. I will do that before I next see you all. I'll have some broad idea of what it is I want to deliver, but then I'd probably take it to market, is what they call it. I'll go and look at build versus buy. So how would I do that? I mean, first, you hear about this a lot. Who's got any suggestions? Where would you go in a build versus buy journey if you wanted to figure out really quickly, inside 15 minutes, whether it's probably worth pursuing build or not? Yeah, search engine, 100%. Well, you can see that's what I've done here. In-class assessment apps, started to have a little look. Okay, I got to that digital tools. I went, yeah. What about anything more focused? Because one of the core things here is I can't spend more money. What about exploiting what I already have? That's an interesting one. I've never really thought to search GitHub, but you're on the right lines for where my brain went. Interesting. Okay. Well, look, here's where my mind, yeah, would you see, this is it. What's free that's out there? Let's just I'm going to have a look at GitHub, because it's not something I would naturally do, and you might be in the spirit of community. You're teaching me something here. CI/CD. There's a phrase, blast from the past. Let's build from here. Let's try this. Now, I've not used GitHub in a long time. Solutions for education. It's interesting, isn't it, what impression you get from locations you go to. So I mean, I'm thinking very much this is maybe for me as a delivery person, I might go here. Can I find pre-baked apps here? Sure you can, but what I'm not finding is that natural hook to me in my thought process, which says I want to go and see what apps people have already built for this use case. Maybe it is there. I'm just not scrolling. Yeah, Moodle. That's a good one. That came up in the LMS yesterday. So I'm going to take a slightly different path. I'm going to come back to GitHub later because I'm intrigued by what you can do in this context. But oh, there we go. App source. It's app source. Yeah, it is. Microsoft have got app source. Is it app source? It is. I've just repeated myself. Microsoft have got app source. It's apps that people have built using Microsoft, which serve different needs and industries. Just the same kind of UI as we just had. So, okay, primary school. What have we got? Now, I think app source tend to. Oh my giddy aunt. Let's just get rid of what you what? Right. Okay. Okay. So there are solutions which have been built and published to app source that we could choose. But I'm looking at numbers here and I'm thinking to myself, that ain't cheap. I mean, seriously? Okay, these are okay. These are educational products that people have produced. So I wonder if I can do a search for assessment spelt. Okay, phonics because it's a phonics use case. No. Yeah, I mean, I think if you have an architect or somebody of that nature, they'll have a lot more experience of this than me. But I'm sure the thought process is valuable to go and explore what's out there. But there's another place I would be inclined. This is just my own bias. I'm gonna go to make top, and I know I said at the very start I shouldn't talk about solutions straight away, but I'm gonna go to templates in Power Apps. And I'm just going to have a look at what templates we've got that might fit this kind of need. There's some stuff I'm going to show actually when I start to get into build. I'm going to look at images and Figma, but I won't do that this week. So let's have a look. What would you? Again, going back to this point that I could be showing people things and they could be saying, yeah, that's the kind of app that I want. I mean, look at this site inspection. I know it's not sites, but it's can you get there we go. I love this. You can go to previews, you can have a look at the app, I think, working. Yeah, you can have you can have all that. I mean, yeah, I could be having individual children or people in galleries with cards that I could got a left and right button and a little button there. So, you could probably replace the data with something else, and then you're going to get a lot for free. I might explore that actually when I get to the build process, but let's just carry on this thought process. Oh, yes. Let's just have a look. Yeah, that's my thinking, Sydney. Is templates is a good inspirational step. I don't tend to use templates myself for pure build work, only because there's assumptions and context built into them that's sometimes harder to unpick than it is to build yourself. But as a bit of inspiration, I think they're awesome. Right, let's just have a look at that link you've just shared there. That is one thing we must do at some point, is explore the educational licenses as we meander through this idea. So let's have a look. View key data, how students. So, I mean, part of the solution I'm looking for is to track data over time. I don't know if I showed that to you, but let's just We got it here? Yes, we have. These assessments take place at different intervals throughout the school year. So yeah, create an assignment. Yes, there are thousands of templates, 100%. Oh, I'm loving this. Getting lots of good interaction. Thank you, Graham. Yeah, so these are interesting, aren't they? Assignments. In teams as well. That's interesting. Hmm. That was a gruesome grey page. Yeah, you could. I mean, you could do that. You could have a simple, yeah, simple power app showing the visuals. I mean, I am going to explore at some point through this journey. I'm going to explore Power Pages, not because I think they're the right solution, but I think it would be a valuable thing to go and explore. So yeah, okay. I think I've made my sort of the point I wanted to share with you is that in this process, the conversation begins it all. The mind map will help me, and I will fill some of that out. I will then think about going to look at what's out there, not only because I might find a solution out off the shelf, but also because it can give me inspiration for my build, and equally it can give me inspiration to share with the person that I'm delivering this for. Some visuals would be really good. Um, but that's the main kind of crux of where I will begin the process now. And also the fourth thing for today that I'm probably sharing with you is that my bias doesn't have to be your bias. You may know all this stuff up front, would be to follow a more of an agile approach. Just out of interest, if you are ever interested in that thought process, you know, what leads me to talk about that probably more naturally than waterfall, having done both. Really happy to talk about those topics, just have a chat. If you've got thoughts or questions around what is Scrum and all that good stuff, I genuinely believe it can still apply to the Power Platform and Microsoft products. Equally, in the right context, I genuinely believe what I would call classical waterfall delivery approaches are super valuable still. Um, it's just that product delivery tends to now bias towards agile because it gives flexibility and adaptability. Um, so Okay, so I've sort of got to that point. I think my next step in this journey would probably be, yeah, I probably will go and offline. I'll do two things. I will gather some. Someone else can be John's whisper for a while. David, so if you're still there, the recording is on YouTube. I will post the link. It just automatically records it, but just my content doesn't record your content. And it is me rambling, right? That's what live streams are about. They're just ramblings, but you might find some useful nuggets in amongst those ramblings. If I talked for a day, I'm sure you'd find useful stuff. And as I do these more, I'm going to try and get less distracted by chat because, as you probably noticed, I go off on a bit of a tangent. But yeah, today those are the four topics I probably wanted to just cover offline. I'm going to have a look at some use case work. So what I mean by that is I'm going to try and map out what I think this solution should do at its very basic, in the context of it shouldn't cost lots. It needs to be something I can present inside about a week, maybe a 2 week cycle of work if you want to go that far. But I'm going to go with a week because I think that's, for this kind of need, it's probably appropriate. And I'm going to share that process somewhere in the academy. I'll document it and I'll share it. I'm also going to do some screen mock-ups using the inspiration that I get from other solutions. So in that post, I'll try and document a little bit about where my conclusions went. Did I find a good template? Did I find a GitHub solution? I'll do those two things offline before we next meet, and then I'll let you see those. And then from there, we'll probably start a bit of a. I'm gonna preempt. I'm gonna say that for maybe made up reasons, I'm gonna start to build this, unless I find a really good template which I can just butcher. Again, going back to the fact that it's already there for the teachers, it's something they could probably get access to quite easily, and I can deliver for them quite easily. It ties in with the idea that I can use solutions to zip it up and pass it to them. So we'll probably go down that path for those slightly artificial reasons, but maybe they are decent reasons for you. The fact you've got portability of your apps between different environments, so developing it or using a template inside Microsoft would make sense. But I don't really see any need for any third-party additions for this. I don't want to add cost. I don't want to expose data externally to Microsoft, so I'm going to stick in the Microsoft domain. And that's where we'll go with the next live stream, I think. Sounds like a plan. It does sound like a plan, doesn't it? So let's just look at the questions and chat. So, I mean, just for those of you watching, how was that for you today? I know we've not done build. You've listened to me talk about my thought process. Interested in your thoughts. What would you like to explore with this that maybe I haven't covered? Licensing, by the way, I definitely will do. That's on my list. Also look at workload to record the results. What do they use to collect data now? Yeah. So just to recap on that bit, at the moment, data is collected into this spreadsheet. Data is stored, but it's individually stored, and then there has to be a human process to share data. So when I map out this mind map, I'm probably going to go through the chat actually, and I'm going to take some of these ideas and map them out, and then we'll see how we build different elements of this. So yes, thank you for that idea. Oh, by the way, yes, and I've completely forgot about this. In this whole idea of build versus buy, bit of shameless promotion for something Mark did today, but I think it's really good actually. I'll pop a link in. But he wrote this, like, we must have been thinking about the same thing. He's used a little bit of inspiration by AI, but that's what we all do nowadays. This is quite handy if you're ever considering solutions and whether to buy or whether to build. And you've probably heard me talk about quite a few of these different points. Now, this blog highlights the points up here, the thought processes he would have gone through, and then it goes into the detail of all of those points. So let me just pop that into here. Feel free to have a read, but it is just pure coincidence that I was thinking about build versus buy and this popped up. So I'm gonna have a read of this myself actually. But like, yeah, this is a big one. So let's just look. Yeah, financial considerations. It has to be within the constraints of their existing budget. They haven't got bundles of money to spend on different vendors, but they already have Microsoft and they're comfortable with that. And teachers are generally comfortable with taking advice and taking support when it doesn't have lots and lots of money, and they're happy with Microsoft products. They're happy with Teams. They're not technical end users in the main, the people that are in my wife's school. So it's a really good point to think about where they are, and that's why I lent towards agile, because if I was to sit in front of a reception years teacher and say, give me the next 2 weeks for us to work out this entire solution, it'll be really challenging, I think, for both parties. So I think the agile approach will work better. There'll be more empathy, more communication going on. Data, absolutely. I want to keep the data inside the Microsoft domain because I believe that it can be secure in there. So that is a key point for me. And also that opens up opportunities for not only storage of data, but sharing of data in the right context. And when I build, what I'm very much thinking is that I'm going to explore the data storage methods, lists versus Dataverse, what I can do with Dataverse for Teams. contacts, users and roles in the Dataverse, whether that's too expensive or whether I can get what I need with lists, we'll see. Support, absolutely. Is that easy and is that possible? Again, with the Microsoft bias, I think I can give them a nice easy ride there. And with updates and maintenance, because it's all in that ecosystem, I can create what's called a managed solution. So I believe that that's going to help in the long run for any ideas around this. So it's really interesting, actually, that as we've gone through this meandering chat through what we might do, a lot of these points have been touched on. Yeah, well, so exactly, Graham, that is what I'm thinking there around the updates and maintenance. We want that process to be very routine, not difficult for the school, not difficult for me. And I'm not saying, by the way, I'm not actually pitching into my wife's school, but this is a great use case where I could genuinely see the Power Platform could help educational users. And I genuinely believe that, to the point that I'm going to try and build it. And if it works, I will give it to my wife, and she can use it, and her colleagues can use it. And if that ends up being valuable, then we will just donate that to people, because I think it could be very useful in educational settings. But yeah, that's an interesting post. I'm going to read that, actually. Righty ho, right ho. A lot of thoughts were to. I have a lot of thoughts in my head, Sydney. They're not always in the right order, but they're there, and I know they're there. So offline, as I start to unpack this, you'll hopefully get some value in terms of how I've approached a user journey, mapped it out. And I'd love your thoughts when I do. And then when we next meet, which is going to be a few weeks, let me just quickly dip into the next few weeks, because it is going to be. I'm glad you've enjoyed it, Graham. I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the sort of journey, getting back into the mindset. Oh, there's Connor. What's Connor doing? He's had a haircut. What are you doing, poaching my live stream, Connor?
Yeah, I just noticed you were coming to an end, so I was gonna just give a quick announcement or a mention of something before you wrap up. But I'll let you continue.
Okay, that's good. It's nice to see you. To see you, nice. Yeah. So just a quick one. In the next few weeks, let me go back to my event. What's gone on with my screen? It's going to be a little bit different, the format for the academy, only because Connor, as you can see, he's got a haircut. It's the only time he gets a haircut. Connor's going to be going on holiday to Spain, not for the second time, because last time he didn't go to Spain. I just thought he had. And then after that, I'm going away to Spain. Funnily enough, we'll end up in the same place at the same time for a couple of days. So I might buy you a beer, Connor. But yeah, so what we are going to do as a result of that, why is my screen frozen? Is we are just flexing what's coming up in the academy. And I'm going to show you this when my screen stops playing silly devils. Let's close down some of these. I'm going to keep that open. Right, we might be there. So I've talked about carrying on this live stream approach. So look out for the August live streams, and I am going to be putting in the September live streams. We will be doing. We'll change tack a little bit. We haven't got another live stream now coming up till the 17th of August. We will be doing sort of AMA styles, Connor and myself, on Canvas apps. That might change a little bit. We will do a Power Automate one. We will do a Power BI one, most likely. But somewhere in there, I'm going to fit this use case to just start to develop it for you. So keep an eye out for live streams. I'll give it a meaningful name so you can spot it. The watch parties are still taking place in August. You've got one coming up on Monday that I'll be hosting. And then I'm away, so Connor will be hosting a watch party the following Monday. We're keeping those pretty consistent through August, and you will see them pop up in September and October. The last thing I wanted to just call out was keep an eye out for this. We are going to be running, with the help of Kelly Edinger, who's a great presenter. We're going to be running it will be more of a build type session. It's a show and tell about a solution she's actually developed for a client around contract management, where you use forms, you use document templates, you merge the two, you can create scalable documents based upon metadata. So it's a really great session. She's going to show you how that all works. But that's the next sort of bookable thing that's coming up. But do keep an eye on this events calendar if you're new to the Academy. That's where things like this go. But you will see live streams. Connor, what would you like to share?
So yeah, I'm just having a look at your attendees for this this live stream. I've just noticed there's a couple of people that were with me yesterday on my LMS workshop. So I just kind of wanted to just point out, I'm going to be sending an email to everybody that is part of that workshop, but just for the people that are part of that workshop that are in this live stream at the moment, I'm going to be going live back in the LMS workshop meeting that you guys joined yesterday in about 30 minutes or so, to kind of finish off that last half an hour of the build that we kind of struggled with a little bit yesterday for those that were there. So yeah, I think Sydney's one of them. I think Graham again is somebody who was on yesterday. Excuse me if I've missed anybody off that list, but yeah, just thought I'd let you know that if you do want to come and attend that last 30 minutes, we'll make a proper effort of it this time, because I feel like I've solved the problem. That's what I've been doing pretty much most of the day today. You're welcome to come and join that meeting in half an hour's time. It's exactly the same joining link and the same meeting link that you would have had in your emails when you registered for that workshop. So yeah, just wanted to point that out, that if you have got some time left towards the beginning, middle, or end of the day, depending where you are, then those that are on the workshop will be able to just rejoin in half an hour's time, and we can one, get the recording done so we can get that out as part of the on demand for that LMS workshop, and two, as well, be nice to actually present it live to some real people rather than sitting here in my little recording studio doing it myself. So yeah, feel free to come back onto that, and yeah, we'll be starting in around on the hour, so about half an hour to 35 minutes time.
So I judging by that, Connor, you've nailed it, have you? You figured out what the horrible things were happening.
Yeah, there was. I've had struggles with Power
I'm going to
today.
watch.
But it turns out it was a very simple thing. It's something I missed yesterday, which obviously I can only apologise for. Something I missed, which solved one of the issues, and then I've ended up spending a couple of hours fixing another issue, which turned out to be just a click of a button, which solves it.
Joking. Wasn't a refresh, was it?
You'll find out.
Okay, keep me on tenterhooks. Is it tenterhooks? I don't know. Did you use AI for the code check? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, should do. Always use AI because it's always right, apart from when it's not, like Skynet, because that got it very wrong.
Yeah,
awesome, mate.
Just wanted to give that a quick mention whilst we've got some people live here today, before I send that email out.
Superstar. Thanks, Connor. Well, hey, look, we have come up to the hour and a half, which is what I intended this to be. Keep an eye out for the follow-up. I will be posting some stuff in the next week or so. It's been lovely spending time with you all. Thank you for your input and questions. And yeah, I'm looking forward to where I can kind of take this. Quite interested now to see where we go with this. But yeah, until next time, I think I'll say goodbye. Oh, I will post the YouTube link what I'll do is I'll keep this Teams call open. I will post you a link into here if you want it. Yeah, thanks, Graham. That's what I thought. I just thought there's no reason not to help if we can, especially with the budget pressures that schools are under, and the fact I have a personal bias because my wife's a teacher. So yeah, have a wonderful weekend if I don't speak to you before, and take care, everyone. See you very soon.
Cheers, John.
Cheers, Connor. Bye-bye.
See ya.